The greatest weekend in motorsports didn't exactly live up to the hype, with Leclerc winning at Monaco, Newgarden winning back-to-back in Indy, and Christopher Bell winning a rain-shortened, or more specifically Fox-shortened, NASCAR Cup race. But the talk of the town today, the fact that Stewart-HAAS Racing is closing up its shop after 2024, what led to this decision, and where do these four drivers and over 300 people end up in 2025.
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, you guys! You're waiting out, boys!
One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
Well, that sucked. I don't care what anybody tells me. Welcome on into Shifting Gears. I am Alan Bailey. Before we get into it, I want to say a huge shout out, huge thank you to everybody who showed up to Irwindale Speedway on Saturday night. Phenomenal night of destruction that we had out there. Myself and Bob Vincent back up on the mic. Big shout out to Irwindale, but also to everybody at Low Budget TV for setting this up. Had an absolute blast, damn near sellout crowd, wonderful turnout, wonderful night, sincerely. Great kickoff to the weekend. And then this coming Saturday, we're also going to be out at Orange Show Speedway in San Bernardino, California, also broadcasting on lowbudget.tv if you want to go ahead and check out the race there. There is a lot to talk about, though, that is non-local racing. This is a non-local racing show. So now that I'm done gushing about my local racing expletives, let's actually talk about everything that we saw out there. And before we get into it, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss an episode. Now, I'm disappointed. I'm pissed. We're going to get to the Stewart-HAAS Racing news. Let's just dive right on into it with today's hot topics. Now, starting in Monaco, Charles Leclerc winning at his home racetrack. Big, massive crash on lap 1 was the talk of the town. The other talk of the town was the fact that 1 through 10th for the first time in Formula One history did not change, meaning that essentially this race and your finishing position came down to qualifying. And since Leclerc started on pole, he won the race. Very emotional for everybody in Monaco, including Charles, who may or may not have been out late partying. Congratulations to Leclerc. The start of the Indianapolis 500 was delayed by a few hours due to rain, but luckily they were able to dry the 2.5-mile track and actually get in all 500 miles, with Joseph Newgarden making this wonderful last lap pass on Alex Palou on the very last lap after Palou did another last lap pass on him. Massive drama, phenomenal racing. Hands down, the best race of the weekend by far was the Indy 500. Kyle Larson came home 18th. It was back-to-back 500 victories for Joseph Newgarden. Now turning to NASCAR. NASCAR tried to delay the start of the race, but unfortunately it didn't really work out, with Kyle Larson choosing to start the Indianapolis 500 and prioritize the Indianapolis 500. He simply did not make the start of the Coke 600. Justin Allgaier instead, racing in the number 5 car in Larson's place, had to go to the back. But inevitably, not every lap of the Coke 600 actually did run. Christopher Bell won the rain-shortened race, although it was more like a Fox-shortened race because TV apparently did make the call to end this race early, despite the fact that the track was drying and that most social media fans at the track indicated that not only did it stop raining, but the track itself was actually fairly dry, and that evidence is supported by the fact that, yes, Christopher Bell was in the real victory lane, and it wasn't raining, and in fact, was bone dry. Goodyear tire test out at Iowa today saw Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, and Christopher Bell taking to the track, getting ready for the race that's set to happen in less than a month. Goodyear more or less sending these drivers to confirm that they had the right tire compound, although there's not enough time to create a new tire, so what the hell was the point of this tire test? Absolutely nothing. Stewart-HAAS Racing confirmed this week that they will be closing operation at the end of the season, selling their 4 charters, and more than likely spinning off the Xfinity Series team as a separate company that is currently for sale to the highest bidder. Where do the 4 charters go? We have confirmed that Front Row Motorsports, 2311, and Trackhouse will all be purchasing at least one of the charters, expanding their organizations to a 3-car organization, the new cap on the number of cars you can run in the NASCAR Cup Series. Series. Now, Junior Motorsports and RFK Racing have both publicly stated that they will not be purchasing one of those remaining charters, but the possibility that Legacy Motor Club or even JTG Daugherty Racing could be expanding, purchasing one of those teams, is in the air right now. Our thoughts and our prayers are to all of the 300 people over at Stewart-HAAS Racing who are currently looking a job for 2025. Sincerely, hope to see you in the garage area and that you land on your feet very quickly. The Charlotte Motor Speedway also announced that there are some massive changes coming to the Charlotte Roval for this year's race in the playoffs, specifically massive changes to the turn 6 and 7 right before NASCAR turn 1, and the final turn 16, right before the start-finish line. Now, is this going to produce better road course racing? Time will tell, but drivers indicated that they are excited about these changes. Chase Elliott might have won the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Charlotte on Saturday, but the story of the day had to be Austin Hill intentionally wrecking Cole Custer under caution and spinning him down the back straightaway. NASCAR fining Austin Hill $25,000 and 25 driver points. Was it harsh enough, and why does everyone hate Austin Hill? We'll break it down this week on the Pit Pass. Also, congrats to Nick Sanchez for winning the NASCAR Truck Series race out at Charlotte on Friday night. For these stories and more, you can log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. Yeah, sad day. Stewart-HAAS Racing made it official. I was really hoping that they were going to stay in business. I heard that there was rumblings that they could stay a one-car organization and that they could retain their Xfinity Series program, but it appears that no. In fact, they are just selling everything. The building, the NASCAR Xfinity Series team, everything 100% for sale. It sucks. It really does. They went through this massive rebrand at the beginning of this season, and we all kind of laughed at it like, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you going so hard in the offseason in January? We know that you suck. We know that you're going to suck this year. What's happening? And apparently the people over at the social media team at Stewart-HAAS Racing and the art department didn't really get the memo that Gene Haas and Tony Stewart were both in advanced negotiations to sell the team. And these discussions went back to last summer. Apparently Stewart-HAAS Racing had met with a couple of different people about buying those charters last summer. So it's been almost a year that this has been in the works. So it wasn't a quick decision. I question giving drivers these multi-year deals with the option of it running out at the end of the 2024 season, only to know that you were about 99% certain that the team was not going to be there for 2025. Potentially, some of these drivers might have a legal case. I have not seen their specific contracts, but depending on the wording, I'd have my lawyer look over it, guys. I'm just saying, because it is dicey, it is shady. I don't think that Tony Stewart and Gene Haas necessarily went into this season with malice in their hearts. I think that they are both at a place where they have other priorities right now. You look at Gene Haas, he has been, to say he's been struggling with the F1 team ever since its inception is an understatement. He hasn't paid attention to NASCAR pretty much since Tony Stewart got in there in 2009. So it's just been kind of Gene's name only. He hasn't been really making decisions over there. And the only times he really did make decisions over there is when he hired Kurt Busch when Tony Stewart was in the hospital and started a whole new fourth cup team over there without telling his business partner. And his business partner found out by watching ESPN. That's not good. And that's pretty much the last decision that Gene Haas made over there. Now, Tony Stewart, he started the NHRA program over there, and he did that partially because of his wife and partially because he wanted that family business and he wanted just his name on that and he wanted to do things his way. He very much got sick of NASCAR years ago. There's a lot of little things that have been adding up to piss off Tony Stewart, and Tony Stewart is 100% justified. I'm not saying NASCAR has been shoving him out the door for the better part of 5-6 years, but they've basically been shutting him out the door for the better part of 5 or 6 years. So it doesn't really surprise me that both of these businessmen decided, you know what, screw NASCAR, I'm done, peace. It really doesn't. And this organization has been a shell of its former self for the past 4 years, really. Darian and a bunch of people on social media were pointing out when Kevin Harvick didn't make the Final Four in 2020 and attempted to spin out Kyle Busch, but instead spun himself out and wrecked himself and sealed his fate. that right there was the moment that Stewart-HAAS Racing effectively died. And I agree, that was the moment. You look at it, Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers were having a phenomenal season in 2020, and then fell off during the playoffs when everybody caught up, and never really figured it out, never really got it back. It's been one penalty after the next, pretty much when they were trying to figure things out for the last few years, and they still haven't been able to. Now, necessarily, where do these charters end up next season? We know that Front Row, a Ford team, is getting one of them. Not sure who's going to potentially be in that, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't one of the Stewart-HAAS Racing drivers. I'm hearing that both Chase Briscoe and Noah Gragson are very, very, very heavily sought after right now. So is Josh Berry. I could see probably Berry ending up in that car, honestly, that third Front Row car. He could end up in the 34 specifically and flat out. Who knows? We could see Front Row potentially take two of the Stewart-HAAS Racing drivers because, again, remember, that 34 is vacated at the moment for the 2025 season. So they could end up with a Josh Berry. They could end up with a Noah Gragson. They could end up with a Chase Briscoe if he brings that sponsorship dollars over, which more than likely he will. 2311 is also going to be getting another one of the Stewart-HAAS Racing charters. That's a Toyota team. Now, Corey Heim is the clear Toyota favorite to jump on into this car for 2311. I don't necessarily know if Denny Hamlin's going to pull that trigger. I think Hamlin might go out and steal a current Cup Series driver from somewhere in the garage area. It's just a question of where does Denny want to see his organization go for the better part of the next 5-6 years. I don't know. Heim is clearly that 5 to 10 year project, but I think Denny Hamlin's focused on winning right now and not necessarily looking 10 years ahead. Then again, I could be wrong. Heim could be the guy in that third 2311 car. We're going to have to wait to see. Trackhouse. No-brainer here. You have Zane Smith coming back over, essentially, from the Spire car that he's loaned out to right now. I would imagine that he's going to be in that third Trackhouse car full-time next year. I don't think SVG necessarily is ready for Cup next year. I think that he's a guy who maybe needs at least another year in Xfinity to kind of just get ready, so to speak. But then again, we could see SVG jumping into the Cup Series full-time next year with Zane Smith being farmed out to a colleague. I don't know. It depends on what Trackhouse wants to who Trackhouse wants to prioritize right now, and I don't necessarily see another route other than one of those two drivers in that car. Dale Earnhardt Jr. said that he is not currently talking with Stewart-HAAS Racing, nor has he, because he simply just does not have the money. That is a very high asking price for these charters, anywhere from 20 to 40 million per charter right now. That's a hefty price. Brad Keselowski publicly tweeted out yesterday that he's about $30 million short of buying one of these charters, and thought about starting a GoFundMe, and don't think that's going to happen. So RFK for the moment is out. Now, all of this is contingent on the fact that NASCAR's current charter deal, or their agreement, I should say, is going to be up at the end of the year. And at the moment, no charters can change hands until a new deal is reached. Now, supposedly, and I'm using that word very strongly, supposedly, NASCAR is giving its final offer to the teams either this week or next week, and I'm fairly certain we're going to hear about this from Denny Hamlin or one of the other owners. Is it going to be the best offer for NASCAR or for the teams? I'm willing to bet it's going to be the best offer for NASCAR, and the teams are either going to take it or leave it. I don't know. It's going to get a little dicey. Things are going to get very tense in the garage area and in the NASCAR world over the next few weeks. Oh, strap on in. But where does the fourth charter inevitably go? Legacy is one big fat option. I do see this happening. Toyota's got some money behind them. Jimmy Johnson and definitely has some money behind him, and they want to be a 3-car team. They want to be very competitive, and Jimmy Johnson has said that their priority is getting a third car started over there. I think that maybe they need to calm down and they need to get their 2 cars running a little bit better before they expand to a third car. But then again, I think Jimmy Johnson at this part of his life wants to just go ahead and get all 3 cars set, get personnel in there, and really start grinding away, having these 3 teams work on something full-time. He's borderline 2.5 teams right now with his own 84 car part-time over there. I don't necessarily think that Jimmy is going full-time racing again. I don't see it. I really don't. He's not competitive in this car. He doesn't enjoy driving this car. I think he's going to find a third driver full-time, and that he is going to continue to run this partial, if I show up, great. If not, oh well, schedule, because it works best for him personally. Now, JTG Darty Racing is a name that was thrown out there by Bob Pockris. I don't see it. They're losing one of their owners unofficially, and they're losing their sponsor at the end of the season. This team is currently looking for sponsorship for next season. I don't see them finding $30 million under the couch cushion and going, yeah, let's go ahead and buy another Cup team. Why not? Come on, we're here. Let's do this. I think it's going to be do we have enough money to get the car to the track this week? Yes, cool, awesome. That will be the situation. Now, does Colleague Racing potentially sell one of their 2 charters? Perhaps. If the rumors about NASCAR capping current teams at 3 instead of 4 are true, it's kind of a race to get to 3 at this point, honestly, between all of these Cup teams. Now, the current Cup teams that have 4 teams or more, meaning Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports, both are grandfathered in, so they will continue to be 4-car organizations until at any point they, as an organization, decide, you know what, we're going to go back down to 3. And I don't see either one of those organizations backing down anytime soon to a 3-car organization. So I don't like this situation. I feel like Stewart-HAAS Racing had everything that they needed in order to be successful. I just simply think there literally wasn't a leader over there. Tony Stewart very much stopped coming to work years ago. And it's very evident by how the statistics for this organization have played out over the course of the last couple of years. Now, am I saying that it's all Tony Stewart's fault? No, it takes 2 to tango, and Gene Haas was very much in that conversation, and he's the guy who inevitably also didn't show up to the party and inevitably watched this business venture fail, much like he's doing in F1 right now, except Tony Stewart, when he came over to Stewart-HAAS Racing in 2009, he actually brought sponsors. He brought know-how. He brought people with him, and he really transformed this organization into a championship contender. And when Tony Stewart left, those people were still around. They still had the pieces. Those notebooks still worked from Tony Stewart, but inevitably they started falling off, and even Kevin Harvick realistically couldn't save this organization. And once Kevin Harvick left, it was just a countdown until the end. I did not think it was going to happen this quickly. I thought it was going to happen over the course of the next 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years maybe. I didn't think it was going to fall apart all in 1 year, but that's inevitably what it did. And now it makes all those social media posts that Stewart-HAAS Racing put out there at the beginning of the season look incredibly, incredibly stupid. They all need to be posted up on Age NASCAR and left there permanently, because that's where they belong. The biggest failure in NASCAR history, period. Stewart-HAAS Racing had all those components and all those people and all that money and all that support from all their sponsors, and slowly but surely let it squander, fall off, and they failed miserably. I wish all 300-ish people at Stewart-HAAS Racing nothing but the best. I hope they land somewhere. But the fact that you were with an organization that slowly but surely went under your watch, it's not a great resume builder. So sincerely, best of luck to you. Hope to see you in the garage soon. Should Kyle Larson be given a waiver for missing one of the biggest NASCAR races of the year when he was the points leader going into this race? Absolutely not. Sorry. Larson chose. He chose to not show up to work on Sunday. That's what it boiled down to. He was doing something else for fun, admittingly. 100% for fun. Yes, it had Rick Hendrick support. Yes, it had Chevrolet support. Yes, it had Arrow McLaren support. But inevitably, that was a race for fun. That was not his day job. His day job is driving that 5-car and driving for Rick Hendrick in the NASCAR Cup Series, not this one-off IndyCar race in the Indianapolis 500. And the fact of the matter, he wasn't sick, he wasn't ill, he wasn't injured, he simply didn't show up to work. And he did not start the race. He chose to start the Indianapolis 500 and run the Indianapolis 500, a competing sporting event that looks like it's going to get higher ratings than NASCAR did. Did this help NASCAR? Not at all. It just helped drive up the ratings for the Indy 500. If anything, it actually decreased the ratings for the Coca-Cola 600. I myself, who am a predominantly NASCAR fan but a motorsports fan, chose to watch the Indy 500 because of Kyle Larson and because it's the Indy 500 over watching the start of the Coca-Cola 600, because I knew I can go back and watch the Coke 600 later, and oh, by the way, it's 600 miles. I can just catch the last 2 hours, and I'm fine. That was my thought process, and that was the thought process of fans. And yes, the sellout crowd in Charlotte were all there, or at least a good chunk of them were there, to watch Kyle Larson race, and he didn't show up for work. What's the point of this discussion? He didn't show up for work. He chose to go somewhere else, a competing sporting event, instead of the one he's currently racing in, and he's throwing a fit on social media and how it's a big disappointment and I feel bad for myself. You did this. You chose this. Do not be angry at the fans and the media for your decisions, Kyle. You made these decisions. Own up to them. Sorry, not sorry. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss an episode. And of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.